Hi, thanks for joining me today. I'm Lisa Bradshaw. Thanks for joining the show. Today we're talking all things animals. We're talking with the Executive Director, Dawn Davies. She's been at the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society for 8 years.
That's right.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I want to talk about your event coming up, but I also just want to talk in general about the work you do in the community.
Okay.
And also just give it whatever information we can give to the audience about pet care, especially during the winter. I know
Right.
it changes a little bit, just kind of like it does in the heat of the summer.
Yes.
So thanks again for being here.
Thanks.
So let's talk. You've been there for 8 years.
I have.
And how has it changed from when you started to where you are now?
Well, the biggest change is the new building. We still call it the new building. It was opened in June of 2015, so it's been there 3.5 years now.
How long was it there before?
38 years.
Oh, so it is still, it's going to be a new building for about
for a long
15
time.
years. You say that.
Yeah.
Refer to it that way.
And well, the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society has actually been serving the Wenatchee Valley for 52 years now. So
amazing.
yeah, it was founded in 1967 by a group of women that believed that the animals in the area deserved a little bit better care than what they were getting at the time. So the original property was donated by Gwyneth Mitchell and her husband, and it's evolved. And then they built the old, what we call the old shelter now. It was the old cinder block shelter, and that served, it was beyond its time when it finally went down 38 years later, but we're still so impressed with this new shelter. So I invite people to come in all the time because it's really a welcoming and friendly place now.
I have friends who say they don't like to go to shelters because they end up going home with a pet they hadn't planned to get.
There is that risk, yeah.
Be warned. So let's talk about your role there. So as an executive director, I think most of us know what that role is for any organization, but you specifically when you're dealing with animals and the community.
Yeah, well, we are a 501c3, a private nonprofit. We do have the shelter, of course. That's the main thing, is the Humane Society. And we also run animal care and control, which is supported by 10 different contracts, 10 different jurisdictions in the Wenatchee Valley. And then we have Club Pet, and Club Pet is our boarding and daycare facility. So, so as executive director, I have all of those. And then we recently added a vet clinic onto it as well. So, but that's internal, and our veterinarian.
So you don't bring outside patients, it's for patients who are, it's for the pets that are there.
Well, currently, there's a little caveat to that, and that is one of our programs. So one of the things that the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society feels very strongly about is spay and neuter, because what we want to do is reduce the number of unwanted litters in the valley, reduce the number of animals that come into the shelter. We want people and their pets to stay together and be together. And so we are doing spay and neuter programs for people who are income qualified. So we do have programs for that. Some of the programs also include like a food bank at the last Saturday of every month. If people, again, are income qualified, but they're having a little hard time maybe making the dollar stretch for the whole month, we can help them out with dog or cat food. And sometimes we have some extra little toys and different things that they can take home too. So.
You know, that's an interesting thought. I was thinking about recently seeing a homeless person with their dog, and we see it, right? We see it a lot.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes there's a judgment, depending on which conversation you're having, about the fact that if they can't afford to take care of themselves, how does that person take care of an animal? But at the same time, let's say that person is truly homeless, not just on the corner acting homeless, and really has struggled for whatever reason, and that isn't a place of judgment either. How are we to expect that person to part with perhaps the only thing or person or being that they are attached to?
You're right, Lisa, and we don't expect them to. One of the things that has been very important to me as the director at the shelter is to make sure that our staff treats everybody with respect, and that we try not to judge anyone for, unfortunately, sometimes you do have to surrender an animal. Maybe they truly cannot take care of that animal anymore. Something happened, they had to move, maybe there's a health reason. We can help them through some of those, but if they really have to surrender, then we will do that non-judgmentally. But for those people that sometimes are homeless, sometimes they're living in their car, we would rather, maybe that pet's the only family they have, and maybe that's what keeps them going every day. So we do want to help them out. We will help them with food. We will help them even with vaccinations. So we want to keep them together.
So there is help available for people who are in financial hardship for their pets' care just as well as their own care.
yes.
That's the idea.
That is the idea.
And it's hopefully a transitional point, right? That they're going through this hard time and then they'll get over that hump and be able to take care of themselves and their pet themselves.
Yeah, and we have noticed that our intake into the shelter has gone down a little bit or kind of remained right about the same for the last several years. But that's exactly where we want to be. We don't want the income to go up. We want our intake to go down and our adoption numbers to go up. And so over the past...
You want to get yourself out of business.
Yes, that would be the perfect, actually that's kind of written into our strategic plan, to create a community that is compassionate for pets and the people who love them, where no humane society is needed. So that would be a dream. It would
be a dream. And I'm guessing, well, obviously the goal, I always say, greatness is the goal, even if not always achieved. So that could be the goal, and just striving toward it makes the community better.
Right.
So let's talk about, so that's your role. You have all of these different programs, and we can dive in a little deeper to some of them. But what is the greatest reward you've received from this so far?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It was hard to, I think.
Or some of them.
My favorite is when we return an animal to its owner, when maybe they've been lost, maybe they've been separated for several months. And finally the animal shows up at our shelter and we're able to reunite them with their family. That's some of the real tearjerker, happy times.
I went down to California, to Redding, California, where they had the car fire.
Oh, yeah.
And many pets were separated from their owners. And then when I went down there, the trip was already scheduled when the Paradise, California fire started. And that was amazing that even so many people that I interviewed in Redding said, well, it's nothing compared to what Paradise went through. That quickly you could have a different perspective compared to the tragedy you just experienced to what you're seeing other people experience. And one of the favorite things that we've been following the stories, and we're doing follow-up through the nonprofit I have, the Don't Wait Project, or that I founded. One of the things that has been most exciting to see and heartwarming is the reuniting of the pets with these families. And it's amazing how some of these pets survived. I don't even, there's no explanation for some of them. They've been missing for weeks, and then they just show back up on the property.
Right.
And they might have been kind of hovering around the property for a while, right? But then the owners come back, and then there they are.
And it's amazing stories. I think one of my favorite one was actually a dog that was brought into our shelter, and its owner was found in Yakima, and she was like a 12-year-old girl. And so it was, yes, those are wonderful. The other ones are when an animal comes in and we've had a few that are severely emaciated, they're at starvation, and sometimes you wonder if the quality of life, if you can really help them and keep them going. And it's always a feel good for us when we can give them the medical care that they need now, get them on appropriate diet, and then watch them during that turnaround and work with behaviors, and then find the perfect match for that animal. You just know that this is it.
So what did you do before you were able to bring the care into the Humane Society? So did you have to obviously outsource it?
Sure, yeah.
And that had to come from your budget. So now you have someone in there that's
Correct.
part of your budget.
Yes.
That you don't have to do the back and forth.
Previously, well, that was a big part of it. The finance is one thing. We were outsourcing our veterinarian care, spending about an average of $300,000 a year. And that sounds like a lot of money to you and I, but when your average of almost 5,000 animals coming into your shelter every year.
And then you'd have to transport them for that care.
Yeah,
right?
and so yes, you're mixing sick and injured animals in with healthy animals, and maybe you're spreading some disease around or something, so you want to make sure that you keep them separated. But to do that transferred, get them to the vet's office, and at the end of the day, go get them, bring them back again, all the paperwork that goes with it. It's difficult, and it was difficult for the veterinarians too, because they're busy offices, and we're not in any way, do not ever want to go into a clinic practice. We're competing with our veterinarians. Our services are for our shelter-owned pets that are to be adopted, and for those that are income qualified. So, and right now that's just spay and neuter, microchip, or vaccination. There is a Senate bill that's on the table that could change things coming up here in January sometime. And if that goes through, it will allow nonprofit or shelter veterinarians to do a little bit more for privately owned pets. But that's where we would like to go. But in order to do that, we need to expand our clinic. Our little clinic's only 300 square feet. And one
A clinic
veterinarian-
implies like there's hallways and doors
It's
to
like
go
the
in and out
size of this desk.
Oh,
So,
goodness. Yeah.
lay 5 cats out here and let's spay and neuter them, and that's kind of the way it goes. But we would like to expand that and have 2 veterinarians and support staff in
Or
there.
just at least let the one have some wiggle room, right?
That's right.
A little more room to do his or her job.
Right.
Well, we're talking with Executive Director of Wenatchee Valley Humane Society, Don Davies, who has been there for 8 years and making a big difference. When we come back, Rene Parkins will join us. She is in charge of donor development, and we will talk more about their event coming up and how you can get involved. We'll be back in just a moment.
Elements is a nationwide top 200 salon celebrating 20 years of service in the Wenatchee Valley. We are staffed with educated and experienced designers providing beauty and health services. Visit our Facebook page for our store hours and our menu of services.
Hi, we're back. Thanks for watching. I'm Lisa Bradshaw. We are talking with members or staff of the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society. We talked with Dawn Davies for several minutes about her role at the organization and how it's changed over the last 8 years since she's been there, including their shiny new building that was built in 2015. And now we have Rene Parkins joining us. She is head of donor development, and we'll talk more with her about her role at the Humane Society. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What is, I mean, it seems obvious, but what's your role as donor development?
It's
Oh,
the
my.
other items as assigned is what it says.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I do a lot of donor development. So I go out in the community, I do outreach, I talk to people, I procure sponsorships for some of our events, I procure donations from either local businesses, I write grants, anything relating to money into the shelter my hands will be in that, as well as marketing and PR. So I kind of have a big round world.
Big list of things to do, right?
Yeah.
And so what is it, I was talking with Dawn about what she finds most rewarding about her role. So I have worked in community relations a long time here in Wenatchee, and I'm always so incredibly impressed with the ability that people have here to give. Not only the ability, but the willingness.
We have such a wonderful community. I mean, people are willing to give, whether it's time, talents, or treasures. Our volunteers, gosh, do you know how many hours
We average
last
over
year?
1,000 hours a month.
Wow.
So we have, that's a huge thing to people to give to their time because they could be doing a lot of things with it. And then we have businesses and just personal donations and, that give of their treasures or their talents. We have a gal that puts together a music event for us in the summer. This coming year will be the 3rd year. I mean, that takes a lot of time to put an event together. She goes out and gets the performers, she gets sponsorships, the food, the catering, everything. I mean, that's a huge talent that she puts together and does just out of the goodness of her heart for the animals in the community. So.
Well, 1,000 hours of volunteer hours per how?
That's per month.
Per month. So imagine those dollars you'd be spending or the things that just wouldn't get done.
And that's really what it is. I mean, there's so much that we're able to do. Our volunteers will do things like go out and get donations from the community for food or toys or different things for the animals. I mean, they do it all. They come in and help with enrichment and.
Yeah, what if someone were interested in volunteering, what would they expect to, obviously you'd probably want to work with their strengths,
Right.
but also just be willing to, they need to be willing to do what they got to do, what's ever needed,
Well, we
which
have
includes some scooping, I'm guessing, and things?
Yes, you can do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a full-time volunteer coordinator because it is a full-time job. And there are a lot of tasks that happen. And you're right, Lisa, it does come down to not what do you have time to do, but what can you do or what you can't do and what could we possibly ask someone who has passion to do that, like picking up the telephone and making phone calls, or going out and procuring items for the auction coming up, or some of the funnest ones that people are really excited about getting into are our behavior modification that we're doing with some of our dogs and some cats. So volunteers go through an orientation, and then there's a whole list of items that they can pick and choose from.
So tell me, we were talking during the break about quiet time.
Yeah.
And let's first tell us about what it is, because I thought, how do the animals know that to be quiet? Most kids don't even know to follow that guideline. So,
well, yes. Well, if you think about, and most people probably don't realize this, but animals are exposed to something going on from 6 o'clock in the morning when our staff starts, whether they're cleaning. So if you were a dog in a kennel, you're getting your house tossed every day. Someone's coming in and they're pulling out your blankets and they're changing your water and your
it's
food.
like it happening when you're like at a hotel and you're
Yes.
standing there. I always feel like I want to help
Housekeeping.
them. Yeah, I can't just stand there and watch them do it. But yes, I see what
Yes,
you mean.
but they don't know what's going on. You know, they've got the walls on either side of them. It's very loud. And then we have, of course, we're open for our guests to come in and hopefully be a potential adopter. And then we have play groups. The dogs go out into play groups where they have social time with other dogs, and really, it's wonderful for them. But you know, if you think about, I think about my dogs at home, and they sleep all day long.
A lot.
And they
There's a
sleep
lot
at
of
night,
energy when
too.
you get home. Yes.
So yes, we were really fortunate that 6 of us went to North Carolina in December, and we were part of the behavioral learning lab. And one of the things that we learned was that, yeah, the dogs need a nap. They need a break. So we, from 1:30 to 2:30 every day, Monday through Friday, we shut off the lights, we close down the music, the halls are closed, so people cannot go in and out. And all of the dogs you can really watch them just settle. And then at 2:30, you come back in, you kind of feel guilty because you're like
I know. I was
waking
thinking,
them up
is
from
an
a
hour
nap.
long enough, right?
Yeah. Well, so that has made a tremendous difference, and that's part of the enrichment that we do for the animals, because it can be, shelter life can be crazy making.
It's a lot.
It's you spend your whole day in a kennel, but we're lucky we have the volunteers that come take them out. They socialize, they walk, and then they get 6 different what we call enrichment items every day. And that could be a box that has toys or snacks in it that are sealed with peanut butter. Or it could be a stuffed Kong that has frozen things in it. It could be a pup cup. So we're trying to constantly keep their mind thinking.
Right. And it is where they live at this point, so everyone should enjoy where they live.
Yes.
And that's what you're trying to do.
And some of the scents are like, we do let's say like a little roll of, toilet paper roll or something, stuff that with paper towel that's got lavender sprayed on it. Put that in their kennel before nap time, and it helps to calm them down. And then other times during the day, we want to raise them up a little bit. We'll put something that has maybe like a deer smell to it or a rabbit, so that they get their prey drive going.
Yeah, things that they would have if they were playing in the
Right.
backyard or going for a hike with their potential owner.
Yes.
Have that experience. Well, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about your event coming up. Tell us the date.
February 16th.
February 16th. We'll talk about that and get everyone involved. Hopefully you have your tickets already, but there's always things that you have to do when you're throwing these events, and you would never turn away a donation of,
No.
say, an auction item or anything like that. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Thanks so much.
Perfect.
Family roles change with time. You may find yourself being an unpaid caregiver to a loved one. Caregiving can be rewarding, but also stressful. Taking care of yourself is vital. Aging and Adult Care of Central Washington has low or no cost services for unpaid caregivers, such as in-home support, care supplies, and counseling. Connect in your local area by calling Aging and Adult Care at 800-572-4459 and mention you're interested in caregiver support.
Hi, we're back. We've been talking with members of the staff of the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society. Executive Director Don Davies is here, as well as Rene Parkins, in charge of donor development. We've been talking about the needs of the community, what the volunteers do, 1,000 volunteers a month. It's amazing. And the new building and all these great things that are happening. And you said that intake is down.
Intake it's hovering right around 4,900 every year, And it would be lower, except that we are transferring some animals in from other states that are unfortunately a high kill. So
that's a little different. That affects your statistics a bit.
yeah, it does.
So let's talk about Auction for the Animals. You've had this event yearly. It's so difficult, I think, sometimes to come up with new ideas for each of these, when you have an annual event like this, but
Yeah,
you've come up
that's
with a good idea for this one.
Yeah, so we thought it would be fun this year to, every year our auctions are themed, but this year we entitled it Be the Hero. It's superhero themed because we feel like that's really what our community is to the animals at the shelter. And we encourage them to be the hero and come out and have fun with us and participate.
So it's on February 16th. Where is it held?
At the convention center.
And are tickets still available, obviously? Are you still seeking auction items? You would right up until, I know how this works, right? You never would turn one away.
Absolutely.
And so people, what would they expect from the evening?
So the evening we'll have a buffet dinner. There will be silent auction and kind of what we call boardwalk games. There's a wine pull and balloon pop and a couple other fun games where everybody goes home with a prize with those, and they're exciting and fun. Silent auction and then a live auction.
And all these, so it's all the funds. So when you talk about getting a new building, it's these fundraisers, it's grant writing, and having these programs in place where you are able to give the animals a little something extra that they wouldn't have without this support. I mean, we don't have to break down your budget, but how does this event impact the rest of your year?
This event, last year we netted $115,000. An annual operating budget just for the shelter alone, not including the other P&Ls, is almost $2 million. So it's, and we have 38 staff members. Most are full-time. Most people don't realize how many people we actually employ and how many it really takes to run. This is not
if you think about what it
something you
takes
can
to
automate.
take care of your own animal,
Yeah.
times however many you have, how many animals do you usually have in a month?
In the in the dog camp, well, we also keep track of length of stay. So we basically have about 65 to 70 kennels available for dogs, and about 40 or 50 for cats.
Wow.
So that's a lot of animals to take care of.
It is. It is many full-time jobs, right?
Yes, and like I said, the veterinarian, just having an in-house veterinarian, we've got a staff and all of that equipment that needs to be taken care of too. So what we're asking for this year is probably going to be on the medical. That's what we're planning our ask for, and looking at remodeling and expanding our clinic.
So when people come to the event, obviously do you have pets there? Or you have pictures of pets? You have some kind of draw about pets.
Depends on the pet, because
Gotcha.
we hope that the pets that are there today won't be here on
True.
February 16th.
Can't really plan for that, right?
Yes, so it really depends on how social they are.
So when people are thinking about if they can attend the event on February 16th, well, first of all, where would they get information if they're interested in attending?
They can go to our website, www.wenatcheehumane.org/auction, the number 1 and the number 9.
Or
WenatcheeHumane.org.
there you go, and find your way through. But we'll have that here on the screen when we in post. We'll make sure it's there. But so people who can't come to the event, who don't have time to volunteer, your check is still good.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
So you could still, in some way, contribute. And if you can't afford to make a donation, but you have some extra time, where you could come in and volunteer, because you had said you try to place people with what their skill set is.
Correct. And just kind of an interesting little tidbit is our adoption numbers, like our pet of the week right now, Penelope, is $125 her adoption fee. She's spayed, she's microchipped, she's vaccinated, and it costs on average $280 per animal, so that you can kind of get a feel for adoption fees don't cover what it really costs. But we know that people are probably not going to come in and spend $280 on a shelter animal. So we have to offset those costs with donations, grants.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing a tremendous job. I'm so excited to hear about all the good things that are happening, and certainly that the animals in our community are better taken care of because of the organization that's in place. So if you have time you have the availability, so February 16th is the auction for the animals. You can go to the website. We'll give it here on the screen and get your ticket for that event. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having
Thanks
It's
for
really
having
been
us.
a good time. I love hearing all the good stuff that's happening. It's a nice part of my job to get to hear about that. Well, we'll be back next time. Thanks for joining us.
Do you want to become part of the most dependable brand of vehicles today? Then start looking at Town Toyota. Come drive the best-selling, totally redesigned 2019 RAV4. Come check out the powerful towing performance of the Tundra. It's built for the worksite and the weekend. Forge your own path and seek tougher roads in the Tacoma. Leave no trail left unchallenged. Whatever your vehicle needs, Toyota has a seat for you. Come visit us today.